How's it going, guys? My name is Zach with the Movie Castle, and today I'm really excited because we're going to be doing another DVD collection video. If you guys have been watching the channel recently, you know that I went through and watched every single movie in the Toolbox Murders franchise. So now that we're at the end of that, let's take a look at the DVDs. This should probably be a shorter video as there are only 3 of them, but these are all kind of interesting releases, and it is fun to look at the Toolbox Murders as a series overall, because boy, is this one of those franchises where every entry is so weirdly different. We start off with a true crime style proto-slasher, then we get one of the more underrated Tobe Hooper movies for the reimagining, and then we end with a micro-budget sequel to that movie that came out almost 10 years later? Yeah, what's up with that one? Overall though, some cool films in here, and it really is an interesting thing to check out. Anyway though, without further ado, let's go ahead and switch to the close-up camera. Alright, here we are inside the castle, taking a closer look at my Toolbox Murders DVD collection, and let's start off with the very first one. I really do love this cover. You get the killer there, looming over one of his victims, and that's actually the girl from the nail gun sequence, which is an absolutely iconic sequence. The idea is this killer is picking people off in an apartment building, and he has a toolbox, and he's using a different tool each time. As you can imagine, with the nail gun, you're gonna have nails flying all over the place. And we have a quote from Stephen King, and I think the nail gun sequence he said was one of his favorite horror movie sequences. But yeah, a really cool cover. Crack it open. We get to see the disc with the bloody toolbox on the bottom, and the killer on the chapter select. We pull this out, and we get the original poster. Compare that to the front there, and we get to see they took off the toolbox and moved that to the DVD. It was also stark white, and they made it this really cool red. And they also had to give her a little bit more bubbles to cover her up for the DVD shelves. I don't think you can see anything in the original version, but I guess they had to play it safe. Bit by bit, he carved a nightmare. Slide that back in. And I do want to give a bit of a spoiler warning before we flip to the back, because for whatever reason, Blue Underground, who made this DVD, they put out a lot of cool stuff. I really like their catalog, but for whatever reason, the images they use on the back of this movie are kind of spoiler heavy. I'll put a time code if you want to skip past it. But there's the back, and hey, it looks like Cameron Mitchell's the bad guy in this movie. You do find that out somewhere in the middle, but I kind of wish they hadn't just told you on the back, and this shot up here of her wandering around with blood on her is actually from darn near the end of the movie. There's a bit about the actors, and we get a commentary from Tony DiDio, the producer, who would be involved in all 3 of the Toolbox Murders movies, so he's kind of like the face of the franchise, and we get an interview with the woman from the nail gun massacre sequence. That's pretty cool. Anyway though, I really do like this movie, but the problem is that the first act is so much better than the other 2. The first act is very much a slasher, but then after that, we get him kidnapping one of his victims instead of killing them, and we get her stuck in this like captivity / psychological thriller, and her brother in a mystery, and neither one of those plots are as good as the first act. First act's absolutely classic, but this is a 1970s true crime style proto-slasher, and not really a slasher. They hadn't quite figured out the formula yet, so they didn't put the kills all the way through. Still a good enough movie, but yeah, there are some slow spots in the middle. But after this, we would get a reimagining from Tobe Hooper, who the front of the box reminds us did the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. He also made Poltergeist and Salem's Lot, and I think this is one of his more underrated films. The Toolbox Murders franchise as a whole is pretty underrated, but man, this remake needs to be talked about more because it really is good. It solves that problem of the first one having those slow parts by making the whole movie super super big and super energetic, and it really goes crazy by the end of it. They really up the setting here. It's an old-timey Hollywood apartment, and it has like symbols etched all over the place that no one really knows who put them there and why. And then running throughout the apartment are a bunch of wacky characters. People who want to be actors, the loud neighbors, the nice old man. And really, this movie has such a sense of life and energy, and it really does build to a big over-the-top ending. And I love the way that this is shot, where you really get to see the grime of this rundown apartment building. This one's pretty sweet. Flip it to the back and we can see Angela Bettis there, who you guys may remember from the movie May. She does a really good job in this one. Her husband gets a new job and drags her to this rundown apartment building, and she is not super happy to live there, but she has this false call where she calls the police and it turns out it was just a bunch of actors, and she kind of realizes, I have to be careful what I say and what I alert on, but I think something is going on here. I just have to solve the mystery. It's a really fun movie. I wish more people had seen it. Crack it open. There's the disc, same as the front. A bit of an awkward crop though. After this, let's move on to Toolbox Murders 2. Now, this movie came out nearly 10 years after the Tobe Hooper version, and it's like a weird out-of-the-blue sequel, but it's super low budget and not very good, and it's a case of where did this movie come from and why? Toolbox Murders 2 is strange, and we'll get into that in a second, but the reason I'm not pulling it up yet is because there's a spoiler for the remake right on the front. The front of this movie has the killer without his mask on, and that's a pretty big reveal in the remake, so if you haven't seen the Hooper remake, go ahead and pause the video here and watch it, because just the front of this DVD I'm going to have to ruin the ending, so here's your warning, pause it here if you haven't seen the remake. Alright, I guess that's enough time. Here is the killer without his mask. Yeah, in the first movie he was just Cameron Mitchell, but here he's the coffin baby, a man born from a corpse who's using the magics he put in the apartment building to keep him alive over these years. But I don't know if he's doing too good. There he is with a bloody knife in this sepia, and there's him dragging away one of his victims. Now if we flip it to the back, there's our main girl in the cage, and that's most of the movie. Like, the entire plot of this movie is a girl's sister gets killed by the toolbox murder, then the toolbox killer goes after her, but rather than killing her, locks her up, and most of the movie after that is her just watching the toolbox killer bring other people to the basement and kill them. You can tell that Saw had just come out by this point, and they were trying to do the Saw gore, but it really just felt like film students playing with Spirit Halloween props. It was not good. But for real, the Hooper movie was so big and so over the top and so imaginative, and we get this low budget movie that's confined to being in pretty much just one set the whole time, and it feels so cheap. It's really a case of what happened. And then there are also like 3 different cuts to this movie. I have the Scream Factory version, which is labeled Toolbox Murders 2, except for on the back and in the opening credits where they say TBK Toolbox Murders 2, and even though it says it's 95 minutes, it's actually closer to 84, but the UK would actually get the full 95 minutes, and apparently the edit is completely different, and they call the movie Coffin Baby. So yeah, that's super weird. Next time I go to England, I have to pick that up. Not that I've ever been to England or anything. And also apparently before all this, there was a DVD-R version that was printed in some limited capacity that was a completely different cut as well. For real, what happened with this thing? Slide it out. Under artwork is the same as the over. Cracking it open, and we get the toolbox killer, his eyes looming over the city. Love original disc art. And then they use this clear case to give us this character portrait. I won't say the context for this, although I will say it happens later in the movie than you might think. So again, a little weird that they just put this on the DVD. I would have chosen a different scene. But anyway, let's put that back there. and slide this back in. So yeah, Toolbox Murders 2 is a weird disappointment, but the other two I really do like. A bit of a clunky, true crime style proto-slasher, but then the remake is so big and over the top, so this one's good, the remake's the best, and the second one is only for the morbidly curious. Overall though, I feel like the Toolbox Murders movies don't get talked about enough, and with at least the first two, it's definitely something I can recommend. A fun little different series, and I love how each one kind of does its own thing. So yeah, I did enjoy watching them. And for real, more people need to check out the Hooper movie. All that being said though, to everyone who's watched so far, thank you for watching. To everyone who's liked and subscribed, thank you, you really are helping the channel out. I'll leave a relevant playlist on the bottom. This should be my Toolbox Murders playlist. If you guys want to see me talk about each of these movies individually, you can click right there and see more. Anyway, have a good day. I'll see you guys again very soon. Playlist here. Have a good day now.